Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. This afternoon, the Education Minister, Haruna Iddrisu, has hinted at plans to restructure the classification of senior high schools across the country to tackle persistent challenges with the computerized school selection and placement system. The initiative, he said, will see 10 Category A schools downgraded to Category B status and another 10 Category B schools upgraded to Category A, backed by extensive infrastructure investment to ensure fairness and balance in school placement. He has been speaking at a news conference here in Accra.
The Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service is working diligently in a manner which is open, transparent, and accountable. But we do accept that there is a challenge. When you have vacancies of 76,000 and you have applicants desiring to fill 76,000 with 393,000, you definitely will have a difficulty and struggle as I'm struggling. It could be any of you sitting here as Minister for Education. How can you fill 76,000 vacancies with 393 qualified applicants? That's a near impossibility. So we are doing our best. Category A, Category B, Category C, justifiably, every parent wants a child to be in a Category A school. But we haven't. In the last month, we haven't expanded infrastructure at any Category A school to have done the magic for us. My thinking, in order that we respect equity, will be that into 2026, and I've had consultations and discussions with the President, I have his support and blessing, is to convert at least 10 category schools to Category B schools. Then convert 10 Category B schools to Category A schools. And that will be backing it with infrastructure, with available classroom blocks, dormitories for students, and quality improvement by way of improved teaching, and then learning materials and learning aids.
Well, Haruna Iddrisu further announced that Cabinet has given the approval to absorb and back all outstanding salaries for 6,200 unpaid teachers.
A few weeks ago, myself and Chief Director received a petition from some teachers who are unhappy with the government over their unending. They've worked for a number of months without pay. I'm happy to announce that Cabinet has given approval for the 6,200 teachers to be absolved. We'll begin the process in due course. They will have their IDs, but as I assured them, they will get back pay. But you see, having demonstrated and pelted stones ourselves, they have to pay for the because we will give them back pay. But for their conduct, what do we get in return? How that they didn't disrupt any academic work. So those 6,200 teachers, I think I can speak for both ministries in this matter. Cabinet gave the Minister of Finance approval to via budget and spend upon about 1.1 billion Ghana cedis to absorb a category of health workers and teachers.
Well, I have questions, and I'm sure you do as well. And one of the key questions in my mind right now is whether the school categorization is even necessary at this point in time. I'm wondering what criteria determine the current ranking anyway, and what really should be the basis for categorization. And should it be revised? What exactly are we looking forward to? Those are questions that we are reaching out to the ministry to give us answers on as we look at some of the key things that have come up this afternoon here on The Pulse. But join me now is Dr. Peter Anti. He's Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies. Thank you so much for your time here on The Pulse. Well, we will be speaking to the Ministry of Education just to understand the basis for this move. Now, I'm wondering, if you're moving Category A schools and we are downgrading them to Category B schools, it must be an infrastructure problem. Why not use the finances you have to provide the schools with the infrastructure? Those are the questions on our minds, and we'll be asking the Education Ministry that question. But then let me bring in Peter just at this point, because you have monitored the education space. Do you think this is feasible in the first place?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers. Well, I think the minister seems to mean well that by attempting to upgrade some Category B schools to Category A schools. In fact, that's been our position for some years now. We think that ministers of education should be measured by the number of Category A schools that they're able to create. Now, how do you create a Category A schools? There are variables that we use in doing that. So you look at your performance at WASI, you look at your teaching quality, you look at infrastructure, you look at preference in terms of student placement. I mean, the demand coming from parents for that particular school. And then we look at performance in co-curricular activities, discipline, and other factors. But these are 4 or 5 important variables that help us to determine whether a school is a Category A school or Category B school. Interestingly, all these factors are factors that are supposed to be promoted by the Ministry of Education through policy. The aspect of infrastructure, teaching quality, it depends on the quality of teachers that are being posted in the school and other variables that are coming, teaching, learning resources and all those things. If you want to talk about infrastructure, that is the government's responsibility to provide infrastructure, and then other relevant stakeholders can also come in there. If you want to talk about provision of teaching, learning resources and all that, these are things that is the duty of the Ministry of Education. Now, when you get all these things, that is what we call input variables. Then you can now look at your WASI performance, which is an output that is a result of the quality of infrastructure, the quality of teaching, the quality of resources, the quality of teachers, everything put together. So at the end of the day, it is a duty of the ministry to ensure that schools have these things so that they will be able to perform well. And in performing well, then the school can graduate from Category B to Category A. So personally, I don't understand the reason why the minister would want to downgrade some schools from Category A to Category B. Is it because their performance are going down? Is it because the infrastructure is not doing well? It is the duty of the ministry to do that in terms of policy. So that should be, it should never happen that a Category A school is going to be downgraded to Category B because of what? Is it that we want some constant number of schools to be classified as Category A schools, and that is why the 88 schools that we have, we are saying that if you bring 10 down, we are going to upgrade 10 more. I think this is something that the minister would have to sit down and then have a rethink around it. I would prefer that we have additional 10 coming to add on to the Category A schools, so that we create more Category A schools, because as we do that, it means that we are making more of our schools attractive, and we are also reducing the congestion that we always get during school placement, where people want to attend only few schools and the rest are left unattended to. And I think that should be the headache of the minister in trying to find ways and means to upgrade most of our Category B schools, looking at the variables, so that we'll have more of these schools for parents to select when it gets to school placement. So
but we should have foreseen this problem, especially when we made free senior high school accessible to all. Now, one of the big questions we would like to ask the ministry when they join the conversation is what assessment they have done really to come up with this decision in the first place. But having monitored the education space really, do you think reclassification of schools is the way to go moving forward?
What I think we need to do is to, yes, reclassify, but not add on to, we have to downgrade. We shouldn't downgrade any school. We should, upgrade most of our Category B schools, which are enormous. There are a lot of them. The Category A schools are less than 90. And we have almost 800 senior high schools in Ghana. So a lot of them are in Category B and then C. For me, what the minister would have to do would be to look at these Category B schools and then provide the needed infrastructure so that they are brought up to Category A. And that, for me, is the reclassification that you are talking about. It should never happen that the school is Category A today and you be Category B today. It means that we are not doing things right, because, as I said, the variables that are used to classify the schools are variables that are input variables. It is only performance in WASI that is an output variable, which is the result of your input variables. So if a school was classified as category A today, and it is going to be classified as category B tomorrow, it means that the managers of that educational system are not doing what they are supposed to do. So, and that is what is bringing the school down to category B. Teaching quality is the duty of the Ministry of Education and Education Service. Infrastructure is the duty of the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service. Preferences are hinged on the nature of infrastructure, and it's also based on the quality of teaching that is happening in the school.
But then, Peter, how would this even solve one of the problems that the minister raised today, overcrowding? He made mention of the school placement system and how individuals are scrambling for category A schools. From where you sit, will that even solve the problem, knowing fully well that getting access to some of these schools is based on merit?
Yes, it's one of the ways that we'll be able to reduce the congestion in our category A schools, so that we'll have a situation whereby students can have a number of choices that they would want to select. So if you have 88, let's assume there are 88 category A schools, everybody wants to go in there, and you are able to now increase it to 150. You are reducing the pressure on the 88. Now they have additional 70 schools that they can also select, and they feel satisfied with it. So for me, that is one of the ways that we'll be able to reduce the pressure and then ensure that students are posted to schools that their performance. Students are posted to schools that their performance enables them to be posted in.
Stay with me, Doc. Let me bring in Hashmin Mohammed. He's the Media Relations Officer for the Ministry of Education. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. A lot of questions on my mind, and I'm sure on the minds of Ghanaians as well. What problem exactly are you trying to fix with the reclassification of the schools entirely?
Attempt your first question. It is important I put this in clearer perspective. I think the minister said government needs to improve infrastructure in category A schools, upgrade some of the infrastructure in category A school, as well as upgrading some of the category B school and elevating them into category A school. This is because the number of demand for category A schools across board is very, very high. For instance, in all the category A schools, the schools declared a vacancy of 76,537. And after the exams, we had about 393,593 qualified students who qualified to be placed in the category A. So you can see the discrepancy between the vacancy and then the number of qualified students, simply because the government hasn't invested much in terms of infrastructure in the category A school. Another issue is the fact that in four regions in the country, they do not have category A school. So how do you ensure that those regions also have category A school? It is about investing and improving infrastructure in those schools. And first of all, we need to also look at how category A schools are defined. I think the earlier person today, I defined the category A schools. It is about the level of interest by students, the performance, and then the infrastructure in those schools. Now, knowing this criteria, I think it is very easier for government to deploy resources to improve the infrastructure in those schools, as well as migrating some of the category B schools to category A, and then some of the category C schools to category B, and then also ensuring equitable distribution of the category A schools in the schools that do not have, in the regions that do not have the category A schools.
So if you have the means to upgrade the infrastructure in some of these category B schools to category A, why are you then downgrading Category A schools to Category B?
Let me make it very, very clear. The minister never said they are going to downgrade some of the Category A schools. He said government needs to deploy more resources to upgrade to improve infrastructure and upgrade some of the Category A schools so that they will be able to absorb most students, as well as elevating some of the Category B schools into Category A so that we can have a lot of Category A schools. Every parent wants to have his or her son in a very good school. So, and the number of students who are qualifying for Category A school is very, very high, and some of them, by merely being unable to meet the criteria, deprive them from accessing the Category A school. So how do you fix the situation? You can only fix it by improving infrastructure and upgrading some of the existing Category A schools, as well as elevating some of the Category B to A, and then some of the Category C schools to Category B.
So let me be clear, you are not going to downgrade any Category A school?
No Category A school will be downgraded. It will be upgraded by improving infrastructure across board in some of the Category A schools. I think the Honorable Minister said 10 Category A schools will be upgraded.
But the Minister said specifically that they were going to convert A to B. What does conversion mean here? Is that not downgrading?
No, the Minister said they are going to convert some of the Category B schools to Category A to increase the number of Category A schools.
Okay, Hashmin, stay with me. Let's be sure what the Minister said. Watch this.
Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service is working diligently in a manner which is open, transparent, and accountable. But we do accept that there is a challenge. When you have vacancies of 76,000 and you have applicants desiring to fill 76,000 with 393,000, you definitely will have a difficulty and struggle as I'm struggling. It could be any of you sitting here as Minister for Education. How can you fill 76,000 vacancies with 393 qualified applicants? That's a near impossibility. So we are doing our best. Category A, Category B, Category C, justifiably, every parent wants a child to be in a Category A school. But we haven't. In the last month, we haven't expanded infrastructure at any Category A school to have done the magic for us. My thinking, in order that we respect equity, will be that into 2026, and I've had consultations and discussions with the President, I have his support and blessing, is to convert at least 10 category schools to Category B schools. Then convert 10 Category B schools to Category A schools. And that will be backing it with infrastructure, with available classroom blocks, dormitories for students, and quality improvement by way of improved teaching, and then learning materials and learning aids.
So Hashmin is still with us. What strikes me is that the minister tells us that he has done extensive consultation and he has the backing of the presidency to implement this in the year 2026. Do we know how much it will cost us if we're upgrading some of the schools?
Well, that is an evaluation that will take place. Even the CSSPS Secretariat themselves, I've seen they have recommended to the minister to have an evaluation of the exercise right after the placement exercise, right after assigning students to the school. They want to hold a conference where they can look at the constraints and enablers of the BECE placement exercise. And then from there, we can all collectively come to an agreement on how we can progress with the future. But in terms of the costing itself, that is something that is ongoing.
Now, let's look at the areas that some of the schools you are proposing to be upgraded are from, the northern region. Can you state these 10 different schools you're looking out to upgrade based on what the minister say?
Well, those schools will be identified based on the data. You realize that the level of interest in schools like Presec, Achimota, Wesley girls, Ebri girls are very, very high. So it is easier to identify them by looking at the data as the CSSPS system is placing the students, and then the interest, the choices of some of the students. Then the ministry will be able to gather that data, and then we'll look at the spaces available in those schools and assign or allocate resources for that, especially the performance level of those schools too.
And one of the key concerns the minister is raising, for which he wants to introduce is the number of individuals who are scrambling for Category A schools. How will that fix that problem?
Well, every parent would like to have his word in a very good school. Hence, the reason why the interest in the Category A schools are very, very high. So if infrastructure is expanded, then we are not going to have a situation where we have a lot of qualified students for Category A who ends up not being placed or assigned to the Category A schools. If the level of infrastructure is expanded to meet the growing demand, I think it is going to fix the problem.
And let's look at the cost analysis. As we speak, you haven't even done that assessment. Is that the case?
The cost analysis is, I think the ministry has taken into consideration the cost analysis. There is a team that is looking at that, and the ministry believes that government will be able to meet the cost analysis to be able to provide those infrastructure in those categories of schools. I am very sure when that is done, we will make it public to the media.
Let me go back to my initial question. The minister, when we listened to him, said convert A to B. What did he mean by that?
The minister said convert B to A, not A to B. If you say convert A to B, then that means that is a downgrade. But the minister said convert B to A.
But he was clear. That's why I played it to you. And I took my time to ask you other questions before we came back to this, because I wanted you to digest what the minister said. He was clear. 10 A schools and 10 B schools.
The clarity.
So the clarity is that he didn't mean to say that. Is that the case?
The minister said government will convert Category B schools, will upgrade some of the Category B schools to Category A. And how that government intends to do that? Government intends to do that by improving infrastructure across some of the selected Category B schools to elevate them into Category A schools. At the same time, there are still some Category C schools that also need infrastructure improvement. Government is also proposing to also elevate some of the Category C schools to Category B. But it cannot be the reverse. The reverse cannot fix the problem.
Stay with me, Hashmin. Let me bring back Doc. Dr. Peter is still with us, just to get his thoughts on this. We're just hearing from the Education Ministry on how they plan to implement this. Your thoughts?
Well, as I said, it wouldn't have made sense for the minister to say that he is going to downgrade Category A to B. I think maybe they have to look at the script again, because I think he was trying to say improve from C to B, and then 10 from C to B, and then 10 from B to A. I think that is what he wanted to communicate. But I'm right?
You're on air.
Is it a right?
Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. Right. So I heard somebody saying you are right. So that is what I think they have to do. And I think it's the best thing that we need to do now. We need to gradually improve on the infrastructure, teaching quality, and other variables in our secondary schools, so that we'll be able to absorb the demand that is coming. I think if they are able to do this within the next 1 year, we will see a considerable improvement in terms of number of people that goes to these resolution centers and want their issues to be fixed. My focus is that we should make sure that this problem that we are experiencing this year, we don't come back to have a discussion around it with the same issues coming up. And I think that is the good step that the minister wants to take, and we should support him in that direction. Any attempt to downgrade as initially seems to have come out is not going to help us. We need to upgrade some category C schools to category B. We need to upgrade some category B schools to category A. And then gradually, if we have a plan within the next 5 to 6 years, we will be able to deal with this issue of pressure on the few schools, and that brings a lot of headache and everything on our educational system during the period of school selection. So this is a positive note. We will need to support the minister, but we have to do other reforms too. And I hope that we add this to other reforms that we need to do with the school placement itself, so that we are able to deal with the issue as and when it is time to deal with these placement challenges.
Okay. Thank you so much, Doc, for your time. We appreciate your time. Let me wrap up with Hashmin Mohammed. Your final words on what other things that this administration may be doing to look at reforms in the education sector moving forward.
Well, I think I've just provided the clarity that the minister said government intends to move some of the category C schools to category B, and then some of the category B schools to category A. In doing that, it is going to fix the infrastructure deficit in some of the schools. That makes a lot of qualified students unable to be assigned to the category A school or the best schools in the country. At the same time, the government is also considering improving infrastructure in some of the schools in OT, Savannah region, Northeast, and Northeast region, because in these regions, we do not have any category A school in those regions.
Thank you so much, Doc, for your time here. Dr. Peter Anti, as well as Hashmin Mohammed, just joining us here on The Pulse. Well, let's shift our attention away from the education sector now. Democracy Hub has filed a writ at the Supreme Court of Ghana, challenging what it describes as unconstitutional and secret Memorandum of Understanding between the government of Ghana and the United States for the reception, detention, and onwards transfer involuntarily repatriated West African nationals into Ghana. The civil society group argues that the agreement announced by the Foreign Affairs Minister in September 2025 as part of efforts to ease U.S. visa sanctions violates both Ghana's 1992 Constitution and binding international laws, including conventions against torture and unlawful detention. According to Democracy Hub, at least 42 deportees have already been brought into Ghana under armed military custody and held at the Bundasi military training camp under inhumane conditions without due process. The group insists that the deal entered into without parliamentary approval breaches Article 14, 15, 19 and 75 of the Constitution, and it undermines Ghana's sovereignty and makes the country complicit in, quote, chain reformment. Well, that is that petition they have put out, and according to them, the unlawful transfer of refugees into the country should not be accepted. Well, that petition is on your screen as we speak, just detailing some of the key things that they have done. And just like I told you, they have filed a writ at the Supreme Court. And one of the key things they are doing is challenging that Memorandum of Understanding that Ghana has between us and the United States. Now, they state the grounds on which they feel this is unconstitutional, especially that concern that it did not go through parliamentary approval. We already heard from the Foreign Affairs Minister try to just detail what exactly that deal is all about. And he tells us the reason why it didn't go through Parliament was because it wasn't an agreement, it was an MOU, and that conversation is what we're about to have here on The Pulse. Well, joining me now is Timothy Selikem. He's spokesperson for Democracy Hub. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. Are you not satisfied really with government's explanation for the signing of this MOU?
I'm a lawyer for Democracy Hub, and thanks for having me. In terms of the explanation given by the Foreign Affairs Minister, I think there is some lacking legal appreciation of the vehemence and the petition by Democracy Hub regarding the issue that has gone on for about a month and more. Under Article 75 of the 1992 Constitution, it is clearly stated that any agreement, convention, or treaty entered into by government, either directed by the President or under the authority of the President, should undergo a process of ratification. The process of domestication is two steps, either ratification by a resolution by more than half of members of all members of Parliament or through an act of Parliament. Now, the argument that this is just an MOU is neither here nor there. If you refer back sometime in 2015, there was an MOU between government and the USA concerning the transmission of some detainees from Guantanamo Bay to Ghana. That action went before the Supreme Court in the popular case known as Margaret Banfo versus Attorney General. The court clearly indicated that the test for whether or not a thing is an agreement is an essential test. And this is a common position of the international community, even held in numerous cases by the ICT. Whether or not a thing is a treaty is an issue of essence, not form. So if there's an agreement that creates a binding legal obligation on any government of any state, and it's a multilateral agreement between two or more, or a bilateral agreement between two nations, then it meets the standard of being treated as a treaty. There is what we know under international law known as the Vienna Convention on International Law of Treaties. And the Vienna Convention on Law of Treaties is very clear on what a treaty is. Any agreement of whatever description that purports to create obligation for any nation state counts as an agreement, unless it is stated in the agreement that it did not, it was not purported to have any legal obligation whatsoever.
And what reliefs are you seeking in court?
Okay, for the reliefs that we are seeking in court, there are about 27 reliefs endorsed expressly on the face of the writ. The reliefs, I can compartmentalize them into tripartite entities. One is a declaratory relief, that is to say that the MOU that is purportedly executed is in violation of Article 75. The second leg is a restraining order against government that the conduct is in violation of the Constitution, so should not continue. The third leg is a cease and desist order that if the government has taken any step whatsoever to continue to effectuate the said agreement, then that cannot continue.
And then, really, we are looking at the other side of the coin. There are critics who say that Democracy Hub, you found your voice and your voice is in sync with the minority. Is this politically sponsored?
No, I think Democracy Hub has established sufficient integrity over the years in terms of its advocacy in support of human rights and civil liberties. And whatever may be the motive, is neither here nor there. We should be more focused on what the merits of the case are. We have indicated clearly that this is a violation of the 1992 Constitution, this is a violation of international law, and that should be the focus of the discussion.
Stay with me. Let me bring in international relations expert, Dr. Ishmael Hovo, just to get his thoughts on this. Doc, we appreciate your time here on The Pulse. Just immediately after government announced this MOU, and we received some of these individuals into the country and onward to the countries of their abode. We also got some juicy news, which is that the U.S. lifted some visa restrictions for this country. Isn't it beneficial for us as a country to be quiet on these issues?
Yeah, thank you, and good afternoon to your viewers. Yes, in as much as it is beneficial, and of course, no Ghanaian will say that the lifting of visa restrictions is not beneficial. But we must also be concerned with adhering to the basic tenets of the laws of this land. So I believe that it is in the interest of the government itself to present this agreement before Parliament so that everybody gets to know the details of the agreement, what they have agreed on and what they have not agreed to. Now, you remember that just recently there was an issue of a certain gentleman being from Venezuela who was purported to be on the way to Ghana, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs will have to step in and insist that the agreement they had with the U.S., they can only accept West African nationals based on some humanitarian principles. So all this is because you have not followed an open process in trying to reach this MOU. So nobody is saying that you cannot use these deals to get visa restrictions lifted. You can use them, but use them properly. Use them through the appropriate channel. Use them through the laid down procedures of this land. So I think that the argument of the Democratic Hub is justified. What we should be, what the minister and those running the Foreign Affairs Department should be thinking is how do they present this agreement before Parliament, get parliamentary approval, so that all the objections and all the criticisms about the deal will go away and we'll move on. So yes, in as much as in diplomatic practice, in foreign policy, you may want to use this as a way to get leverage. You should do it properly within the context of Ghanaian law.
But then we haven't seen this MOU really and the details of the MOU. But then aren't there international implications if, for example, we go to Parliament and they decide that this deal is not what we're in for, and Ghana would have to backtrack on this MOU, which we have signed, by the way? Wouldn't there be international implications for us as a country?
Now, so if you send an MOU to Parliament and Parliament will decide that it's in the best, it is in a very bad taste or it's not in the interest of Ghana, it's actually a very bad one. So there's no big deal backtracking on it. If that should be what you should do to protect the interest of Ghana, that should be done. If you believe that MOU is in the interest of Ghana, then the foreign minister, the president, and those involved must be able to justify it before Parliament. And of course, we have a Parliament that is one-sided virtually. So if one-sided Parliament will reject an agreement of a sort, then there's a lot of questions that will be asked. So I think that we should not fear anything. We should go through Parliament. That will make all the criticisms to go away. That will make the agreement more open to the public, more open to our representatives, so that the fear of Ghanaians, some Ghanaians that maybe people of very questionable characters will be accepted, will go away, and then we can engage the U.S. if we think that some aspects of the agreement have to be changed. We engage them and then rectify resolve those quickly, so that nobody will continue to ask questions pertaining to the legality and other ways of this agreement. But currently, the way we have done it, the way we are trying to go about it, although it gives us some relief, it still constitutes a very an issue of law, and I'm not surprised that this group have taken it to court. Because if you look at the Ghanaian law, you look at international law, and look at what we are doing, particularly the fact that they are not the deportees we are receiving are not coming to stay in Ghana, but we are facilitating their deportation to countries that they initially objected to going. So yes, Parliament have to look at it. Even if Parliament decide that it is not in the interest of Ghana, then it means that it is actually not in the interest of Ghana. But I'm sure that the minister and those who enter this agreement, we have done a lot of due diligence to ensure that there is no agreement that will be contrary to the interest of Ghana. So it should be, they should be able to present it before the House, so that the House will take a good look at it and then give them a leeway to continue the deal if there need be. And if it is not, then they should have to stop and find another way to engage the U.S. for if we sign other reliefs that they are seeking from the U.S.
But then it's interesting you make mention of the House and the numbers. It's really a game of numbers. Do you think the majority with the numbers they have can even object to an MOU signed by one of their members?
That would be very, very, very strange. That would be something that I can't think will happen. So that is why it is strange that the government is not willing to present the agreement. And that adds up to the suspicion that there is something about the agreement that is not good for Ghana. So
but even if the agreement isn't good for Ghana as a country, the voice of the minority is quite little. In the game of numbers, if it comes down to a vote, they would surely lose it.
That's why I'm saying that given the numbers they have in Parliament, this should not be a challenge for them to get it through Parliament. So the fact that they are hesitating to present it before Parliament adds up to the suspicion that there may be something in there that will not be good if it comes out in the public domain. So if they don't have anything to hide, if they don't have anything to cover up, they should just present it before Parliament. And then once it goes through Parliament, all these challenges will fade away. And then you can continue to engage the U.S. and see how you get other benefits from Ghana-U.S. relations instead of keeping it the way it is now.
Thank you so much. Dr. Ishmael Hovo is an international relations expert. Let me wrap up with the legal representative for Democracy Hub, Selikem. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. When next are you expected to appear in court as you start this legal battle between yourself and government? Selikem, you have some need for me to hear you clearly.
Yes, we are expected to appear before court next month, which is November. We are waiting to get a reply from the Attorney General's Department and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs regarding the suit. I would want to address a simple issue that my other colleague raised. The suit is so wide in scope that it is not enough that Parliament ratifies the said MOU. That the second leg of the argument is that even if the said MOU is ratified, it will be in violation of customary international law, and that Parliament could not have done it. Because there is a principle of international law known as the doctrine of non-refoulement. And the doctrine of non-refoulement is that if a person alleges that if he is transmitted or repatriated into another country, he will be able to face harms that are known under international law in violation of the Convention Against Torture or the ICTR, then that person cannot be so transmitted. Some of the people who were earlier transferred, the Gambian national and Nigerian nationals who were transferred to Gambia and Nigeria, are people who have alleged that they are facing persecution in their home country. So they couldn't have been transferred at all. Ghana has no duty under international law to receive these people from U.S. and participate even as a middleman or as a stooge in transmitting them to their home country. Yes, that is the position of the law.
Thank you so much, Timothy Selikem, for your time here on The Pulse. While you're still watching The Pulse, please stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick turn. Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. Let's do other stories now. The Health Facilities Regulatory Agency has shut down 2 unlicensed eye test clinics in Kumasi for operating illegally while providing medical screening services to the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority. According to HEFRA officials, the 2 facilities located near the DVLA office at Oforikrum were found to be operating without valid licenses and were not registered under the agency's regulatory framework. The closure forms part of HEFRA's ongoing nationwide compliance exercise aimed at ensuring that all health facilities meet the required standards of operation. The team is still on the ground and at the KMA clinic, where they have shut down the clinic for operating without a license. Let's cross over live to the Ashanti region and speak to my colleague Nana Boachi Yadum. Nana, what's the situation as we speak at KMA Hospital?
Well, Fosti, thank you so much. And just as you said, we are in the Ashanti region, the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly, and this happens to be the Metropolitan Assembly's clinic. And after all the rounds that have been made from morning till now, this facility is going to be shut down for operating without a license. That is the indication that we have from HEFRA. The HEFRA task force are currently inside with the director. Other individuals are there there. We are told that a little bit of engagement that will be happening inside there. But what is expected is that the KMA, Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly's clinic, is going to be shut down today for operating without a license. You can see that that's the photo of the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly Chief Executive, and then other directors of the facility are all in there. We are here with the press and then the police and then also the task force, all from HEFRAP. This is to make sure that the regulatory bodies' rules set out to provide licenses are not overlooked. And so if you're a facility operating in the country without a license, you'll be shut down. And unfortunately, this has come to the front door of the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly, and the clinic that is providing services to the general public from KMA is expected to be closed down pretty shortly. I have the PRO for HEFRA here with me, Christabel Ariam, to tell me what the fractions are with the KMA clinic and what we're expecting going forward. I mean, it is a big facility. It is the KMA's own clinic, and you're expected to shut this facility down any moment from now.
Okay, Evans, so you were with the team yesterday, and then we continued this morning. And then, like I stated earlier, the mandate of HEFRA is to regulate both public and private facilities. So whether you are public or private, once you are not licensed, we would close you down. So today we are at KMA, that is the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly Clinic, and then we are expected to close the facility down because they are not licensed.
But someone would ask, why is a KMA facility, a facility that belongs to the Metropolitan Assembly itself, would not have a license to operate?
I know there was a directive from the Director General of the Ghana Health Service that all facilities should be licensed or should ensure that they get licensed by HEFRA. So if KMA is not licensed, then I wouldn't know who to hold responsible, but I believe they have an administrator. So for the Ghana Health Service, they have given us that permission, and we actually collaborate with them, and they know there was that directive that they should all ensure that they come under the regulations of HEFRA. So if KMA is not licensed, KMA is not bigger than the law. The law says that we should regulate both private and public facilities. We want to be sure that whatever is happening in this facility is the right thing. We want to be sure that we have the right people in there, they are following the right procedure, and the facility itself is up to purpose. So that is what we are doing. So it doesn't matter whether it's a public or a private facility, whether it is big or small. Today you were with the team. We went to even as small as facilities that are selling reading glasses. We'll close you down. Because it doesn't matter how small you are. It doesn't matter how big you are. Just come under the law, and together we'll provide Ghanaians with quality health care.
And I want to finally ask if there's been any form of engagement with the KMA boss, Honorable Richard Ofori-Agyeman, as to registering or licensing this facility, and then that has been overlooked. Has there been anything like that?
So when it comes to the public facilities, we relate with them through the Ghana Health Service. And I can say for a fact that there has been a directive from the Ghana Health Service that all public facilities or all facilities should come under the regulation of HEFRA. It means that they should get a HEFRA license. So once there's been that directive, and I know a number of public facilities that have actually come, and then we have licensed them. Recently, I think somewhere in March, we were in Tafo Government Hospital when your station reported a story about some mishappenings in Tafo Government Hospital. We were there, and then we brought them into conformity. We did that. So KMA is not bigger than Tafo. Just like we did in Tafo, today we are at KMA, and once they are not licensed, there's a little engagement going on, and I'm sure they will be locked down. We'll close them down. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And so that is the the HEFRA PRO, and now the indication is going to be placed on the doors of KMA before it is officially closed down. So that is it. KMA clinic is closed down by HEFRA for violation of Part 1, Section 11 of Health Institutions and Facilities Act 2011, Act 829. And so this is the notice that will be pasted on the doors of KMA to officially indicate that it has been closed down. Now the task force is moving to the other part of the facility. As I indicated earlier, it is being led by the task force, the directors, and the police, all of them making sure that this facility which belongs to the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly is closed down. So patients, we have to look at the condition of the patients who are in here, because when we came, some patients were in. We have to know what is going to happen to these patients. So we're being told that they will be driven out, and then the facility would be closed. The nurses are all going to come out. Everybody is going to come out for the facility to be shut down. And so operations at the KMA clinic this afternoon would be seized for operating without license. And this is what HEFRA is doing at the moment. The pharmacy and the general ward here are all going to be closed down. We can see some patients are already coming out because they are about to shut this place down as well, and all the workers in are wrapping up their staff to make sure that they leave. The facility, we're told and reiterated by the HEFRA PRO, is running without the appropriate license required of them to work as a health facility. We asked whether the KMA boss is aware of this. HEFRA has indicated that there's been series of notice given to the KMA, but then they have violated that, and for today, the facility is going to be shut down. This is a bit surprising, because this is a facility that is operating on the premises. It belongs to the Metropolitan Assembly, and the question remains why a facility such as this one would not be operating with the of license that is required of them. And so for Steve, this is basically what is happening in the Ashanti region. The operation started in the morning with several eye clinics, 2 of them working with DVLA, closed for operating without license. And then this time around, we have the KMA's clinic being shut down by HEFRA for operating without a license. For Steve.
Providing us that update all the way from the Ashanti region. Let's come back to Accra now. The minority in Parliament has launched a blistering attack on the government, demanding the immediate payment of salaries owed to thousands of nurses and midwives across the country. Addressing the press a while ago, the minority accused the governing NDC of downplaying government's efforts and drowning public administration in politics and deception while health workers languish without pay. The minority's ranking member on health, Dr. Nana Ayuwe-Friye, branded the government's delay as deliberate and cruel, revealing documents dating back to the year 2024, April 15 to be precise, stating that that administration had signed that document, and that letter has the former Deputy Finance Minister signature on it, noting that they have already authorized payments for the recruited health workers under the 2024 budget.
Antecedents. You have a financial clearance. Financial clearance is issued when there is budgeted for. So monies are available for you to appropriate. And this is why you get financial clearance. No sector would issue a financial clearance to cause a financial loss when it's illegal for you to recruit. So you had clearance issued last year, July, and then some of the staff were recruited. Some of the recruitment were done in institutions like the teaching hospitals and also CHAC. So that reduced it to about maybe about 8,000 or 7,000 of them were recruited. So about 6,000 more were left. Now, those who were not recruited was because the Ghana Health Service delayed. That's the Ghana Health Service delay. So you have a reason to query the Ghana Health Service for the delays, why orders started 5 months before December 7th. It was issued July, and then Ministry of Health and CHAC, their staff were working from end of July and August, and they were being paid. Now, the remainder were those that were completed by Ghana Health Service, and they had to also be paid. They've not been paid for 10 months when their money is sitting there. So where is the money? They will not recruit when there's no money. There was recruitment. Clearance means that there's a money there to be paid. And it expired 31st of December. They were recruited before then. So coming 10 months down to say that they have to go for cabinet approval is untenable, it's unacceptable. No, it's not right.
Maybe they will talk about
what sort of dialogue? When you have clearance? When you have a financial clearance, you only have to, the process of this, you have to, the Ministry of Health will have to write to the finance minister for an extension. That's all. It doesn't. And it's not as if financial clearance don't expire. It has expired in all governments under the Fourth Republic. Even under this NDC, they will issue clearance that some will expire. All they will do is to write extension. They will not go to cabinet. If you go to cabinet, it means your decision not to pay them was political. You have to go and undo it and then see the need to come clean. But you are exposed because the nurses and the midwives, some of their parents voted for the NDC and against the MPP. But this has got to do with governance. It's continuum. You don't even care about who voted and who did not vote. Is that your business? It's not your business. Their parents are responsible. Some of them work, they pay taxes formally, informally. They buy things, they pay NHIL, they pay VAT. So it's the taxpayers' money they put there, not the MPP money. It's neither the NDC money. Hey, then if that's the case, every government will have to go and undo all people recruited from 2016. No, governance is continual. So we need to ensure that these nurses are paid and pay this month because their monies were there. We don't want to take this issue of going to cabinet. No, please. We don't want this sort of politics. The money is there, so they should just pay them. Period.
Well, joining us now on the phone lines is a minority member on the Health Committee, MP for Abuakwa South, Dr. Kingsley Agyemang. Doc, I'd just like to read something to you that the Health Ministry put out just before that news conference yesterday, where the Health Minister told us that they would indeed be paying these nurses. It says, and I'm reading to you, and that would serve as basis for my question. In July 2024, under the previous government, the Ministry of Finance granted financial clearance to the Ministry of Health for some 15,200 nurses and midwives. In the letter, the financial clearance was to take effect from September 2024 and expires on the 31st of December. This meant the engaged nurses would have to be processed and paid before 31st of December 2024, or they would lose their clearance, meaning they would still be deemed unemployed. Based on the clearance form you put out today, was there an expiration date there? Dr. Kingsley, you have to unmute for me to hear you clearly. Well, we're still trying to reconnect the lines to speak to the minority. Today they held a news conference, and key among the concerns they've raised is just tackling some of the things that government have put out. They claim that financial clearance was given for these nurses to be paid as far back as 2024. This administration agrees with that, but they also state that there was a timeline to this clearance, and that timeline had elapsed by the time they had taken over. According to this write-up by the Ministry of Health, it says that some 13,500 people really, as of the 31st of December, were not cleared. And so I just wanted the minority to clarify for me. In that clearance notes that they have been brandishing today, is there a deadline?
Hello?
Yes, Doc. Can you hear me?
Yeah, first I lost you from the beginning.
Okay, Doc. I have all the time, and so I'll take you through it. And I'm hoping that my production team can also put it on the screens so that it will help our audience to follow through. Now, just before the health minister held that news conference yesterday, they put out just key details of the events leading to where we are today. According to the health ministry, just like you have confirmed, in July 2024, the Ministry of Finance granted financial clearance to the Ministry of Health for some 15,200 nurses and midwives to be employed. Now, according to the Health Ministry, in the letter, the financial clearance was to take effect from September 2024 to December 31st, 2024. Now, what this meant was that engaged nurses would have to be processed and paid before the 31st of December, or they would lose their clearance, meaning they would still be deemed unemployed. According to the Health Ministry, they tell us as at 31st of December 2024, 13,500 of these nurses had been recruited and posted. However, none of them had been processed and paid. I want you to confirm for me, in that clearance note that you've been brandishing today, is there a timeline really?
Okay, so a very good afternoon to your cherished viewers and listeners. It's rather unfortunate that the government has gotten this staff, critical or essential staff, to this level. I mean, everybody knows it's a common public administrative or civil service procedure that all financial clearances end with the end of the financial year being 31st December. And usually when it is done, we go for extension. Let me emphasize that the 15,200 that were granted financial clearance, what it basically means is that funds are available for the payment of this 15,200. So those who were recruited by CHAG, that's the Christian Health Association of Ghana, the teaching hospitals, the midwives at the teaching hospitals, all of them got paid in July, except those whose recruitment was through the Ghana Health Services. That was done in December. Are you saying that this category of nurses are different from the others? The answer is obviously no. And if you are going by that technicality, politically technical motivated thing, what it means is that you are suggesting to us that did the institutions need, or did they need these nurses, or did the nurses, did the institutions write back to the nurses that they didn't need their services? It was a no. So it means that financial clearance was valid because they were recruited. They were recruited and they needed to be paid because their colleagues that went to CHAG and the teaching hospitals got paid. It was only the Ghana Health Services that there was a delay. So when it happens like that, you don't need a cabinet memo for approval again. All that you need to do is to write the Minister for Finance for extension of that particular thing. Are you suggesting to us that those who engaged in 1980, 1970, 2000, 2010, and others, all of us every year will have to go for financial clearance? No. Or are you saying that the monies have been put for them for the number of years that they have to stay in service? No, it doesn't occur like that. It's a recurrent expenditure. Salaries are recurrent expenditures that are paid every year, just in the budget. So the 15,200 clearance approval that came in July meant that provision has been made for 15,200 nurses.
Now, granted but not admitting that if indeed your argument is right, why are you crying foul now when the ministry already told us yesterday they would pay the nurses?
But they didn't give us this narrative. They politically hoodwinked people to believe that they needed financial clearance to pay the others. What we are saying is that provision has already been made. So therefore, they have to be paid now. There's no point in delaying when others were paid in July last year, as soon as they got recruited by two different agencies. Why are you delaying that of the Ghana Health Service nurses? So is it a matter of you responding because the minister came to say something yesterday? No. The fact and the principle is that financial clearances are extended, and all of them expire on 31st December. At the end of the financial year, were no monies put in the account? Was those provisions for compensation not accounted for? What kind of amount of money did the finance minister clear from all balances that were in the government accounts? You know, when they took over, they swept all accounts. So the question is, has the finance minister come to see that provision was not made for them? A provision was made for the 15,200 nurses. So if some were recruited in July and they got paid, what of those who were recruited in December? By December, the financial clearance had not expired. And I'm saying that by common practice, even if it does expire, there's always an opportunity to write for extension, which the minister should have done to his colleague finance minister. It doesn't need a cabinet approval because it's not a new thing.
So the purpose of the news conference today was simply to set the record straight?
Absolutely. And to also demand that their monies have been made available, therefore they should be paid. We can't take, you see, for some time, the labor front of the health workers has been a roller coaster. And every health worker needs a peace of mind to be able to work. What is the point in keeping somebody's salary and provision was made for 10 months? If you are not paid for 10 months and they are giving you this technical gymnastics, I don't think it's something anybody will be happy. You see, there were some excesses when the nurses demonstrated. These are no students. These are recruited nurses who had financial clearance for them to be recruited. So the minister's attempt to make the public believe that they are rather doing something that is right and they're on the side of the nurses. No, they've rather created a mess which they are trying to correct themselves. So they've not done anything as a cost 90.
Thank you, Dr. Kingsley Ajiman. He is Member of Parliament and a key member of the Select Committee, the Health Committee in Parliament. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. Now, let me take you back to our earlier story and speak to the Chief Executive Officer for HEFRA, Dr. Winifred, just to get her thoughts on some of the key things they've been doing today. We told you earlier that they've been visiting some places in the Ashanti region. We just wanted to find out from them which other places they'll be visiting today and what they plan to do with some of the institutions that they have shut down so far. Dr. Winifred Ba, we thank you so much for your time here on The Pulse. I just wanted to find out, really, you've been to a couple of places this morning. What are some of the key concerns you have raised so far? Unfortunately, we've lost connection to Dr. Ba. Whilst we reconnect the lines, you're still watching The Pulse. We'll be back after this quick turn. Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. Now, back to our earlier story. We told you we'll be engaging the Chief Executive Officer of HEFRA, Dr. Winifred Ba. We understand that the KMA clinic has been shut down and he's joining us just to provide some updates on this. This is quite worrying. This is a government institution expected to be doing what is right, and now they're going to be shut down. What exactly were the flaws you found out when you visited this institution today?
Thank you very much. So as part of our ongoing exercise, we visited the KMA clinic, which is a Ghana Health Service clinic. And we found out that they have been operating without license. This is not good. And like I want to regulate both public and private clinics. And so what we say that we have had on the private sector, the government is most of are compliant. I'm not sure this one, but one the light we have on the place.
Doc, you have to position rightly. There's a network challenge, and I keep losing you intermittently just when you're about to make your point. So if you can take that again for me, much better now.
Okay. So sorry. So what I was saying was that our mandate is to regulate both public and private health facilities. When we got to KMA Clinic, which is a Ghana Health Service clinic, a government facility, we realized that they didn't have a valid license, which means they have been operating illegally. And so we have shut down the place because we have to be sure that the care that is being given there is safe and quality, and we cannot verify that once we have not licensed them. So we have to close down the place.
And then moving forward, will you be visiting more government institutions, seeing that they might be complicit in some of these issues?
Exactly. And we are visiting both government and private. So any government facility that is not compliant, that is not fit for purpose, we will close them down.
Would you be visiting teaching hospitals as well?
Oh, yes, we have been, and we are visiting them. And you see, when we go to a facility, it's not just like, for example, if we go to college, it doesn't mean we'll close down the whole college. If we find out that there's a department or a unit that is not doing well, we can. It may not have to be there because the teaching hospitals are big. They have different departments and other units. So some may be doing well, and so it doesn't have to be everything.
And then I'm just wondering, with these facilities you have shut down, both here in Accra and in the Ashanti region, what are you looking to see before they're reopened? And also concerns that some of these facilities may go and start operating even without fulfilling the different criteria that you have provided for them.
Well, so once we close you, we put our padlock there and we put a notice there that this facility has been closed up by HEFA. Anybody who goes open that without permit has and what that we hand you over to the law enforcement bodies, and then we take you through the legal system. And so before we open for you, you need to come and subject yourself for registration. So you have to bring the documents we are looking at. We have to come and look at those who are practicing. Are they certified? Do you have the equipment? Once we do the inspection and you certify, we give you a license and then we reopen it for you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Winifred Ba. He is CEO of HEFA. Away from that, the Trades Union Congress is gearing up for a fierce battle against the government over the galamsey menace. In a strategic move, the TUC will hold an internal stakeholders meeting to craft an action plan to pressure the government to tackle the illegal mining menace. Now, this development comes on the heels of a recent tour to water treatment plants and galamsey endemic areas, which exposed the severity of the crisis. Deputy TUC Secretary General Dr. Kwabena Nyankwo-Otu has hinted at a different strategy from last year's failed industrial action by organized labor. He says the TUC is determined to hold the government accountable for its promises to tackle illegal mining.
There are a number of people in the forest where River Yensu takes its source, actually mining. And what we saw are the experiences of people telling us that we shouldn't go further because our security will be at risk.
Even after the assurances we received from the president?
Exactly. We never saw the blue water gas. What we saw actually, and we have photos, we have recordings of what we saw. Okay. What we saw is the fact that today in Chebi, the Green River, the turbidity level is about 22,000. This is for a plant that was not made to handle turbidity level above 500. So this is the experiences we have gone through. And to be straightforward with you, the TUC on this trip never announced any measures. The TUC in the press statement read by the Secretary General indicated that after witnessing this, what we intend to do is that the structures of the TUC will be meeting in the coming weeks. And in those weeks, we will announce the measures we think we as TUC, and here not organized labor, we as TUC must do in collaboration and with government to end the illegal mining.
Meanwhile, organized labor has been trading blames over who exactly broke the front of the organized labor after a botched industrial action planned last year to demand action on galamsey. The Vice President of TUC, Dr. Bernard Tutu Wahin, blamed the TUC for the issue. Let's listen to him. We'll come back and hear from the Secretary General of TUC.
When we had joined them, what happened was that TUC was going to have a meeting, that's what I mean by the betrayal, with other union members without informing UTAG initially. So we got wind of that meeting and then we made certain calls. I think it was through Professor Jampo, And then they now said that, yes, the meeting is coming up, so we should go. Ideally, the national president for UTAG was supposed to have been there. But because at that time we were housed at UDS, Tamale, so he couldn't have flown from that time within that short period. So Professor Jampo and then one other, I think the secretary for University of Ghana, went for that meeting. Now in that meeting, according to the report that we had, you understand, I am basing my reports or what I'm saying based on the report that was given to us. So according to the people that we delegated, the national president delegated, that is Professor Jampo and Jerry, it came out clear that TUC leadership had probably agreed on what they wanted to say on that day. And so they were not even given that chance and opportunity to put their views in there. So I think that when they came out, they had an engagement with even the media, all right? And based on that, they gave us our reports. So that was when we felt that we have been betrayed. So we went through the, how do you call it, the UTAG processes, you know, to also isolate ourselves from the position of organized labor, and for which we also decided that we will go solo with our own strike as we had earlier planned. So we went through the process, and if you remember, UTAG went on strike. You understand?
But the Deputy TUC Secretary General, Dr. Kobna Yaku, described those claims as baseless.
Let me indicate that the allegation that the TUC betrayed UTAG and for that matter, the arrest of organized labor is a baseless allegation. It has no merit. What really happened in 2024 was that, you know, unions have what we call core issues. So core issues like things to do with wages, salaries, working conditions, benefits. And from our own experience, it is always easy to get unity of unions and workers around those core issues. But when it comes to a non-core issue like galamsey, and I say non-core because that is not what unions are formed to fight for, even though it is an important and essential problem. But it is not core to what we do as union. When it comes to those issues, it's always difficult to maintain the unity of unions and also of workers around those issues. And clearly in 2024, this is what played out. The unity question was clear, or we were not united on the issues. Politics had entered the fray. Some other unions within organized labor had declared their own stand. They were not going to go with the strike. Some issues, statements, abandoning the strike action. And it will interest my colleague in the studio to know that none of the TUC unions actually issued a disclaimer or issued a statement saying that they will not be part of the strike.
But I mean, Doc, this is organized labor. How did this happen?
Yes, it happened because, as I've indicated, this is not wages and salaries. If it's wages and salaries, those at the air traffic control unit at Kotoka International Airport have a stake in it. Those in the mines have a stake in it. Those at the port have a stake in it. The teachers have a stake in it. But if it's galamsey, there are some people who may think that it is far removed from them, even though that might be a myopic view. But it is what it is. So what the point I'm saying is that if it is not a core issue like wages and salaries, for which unions are trained and for which unions actually were established to address, it is always difficult to maintain unity around those issues.
Away from that, residents of Kobo in the eastern region have taken to the streets to express their frustration and disappointment over the deplorable state of their roads, which they claim have been neglected by government. The protesters attribute the stalled progress on the road project to the change in government, leaving them to suffer the consequences. Some of them shared their concerns about the poor road condition, citing difficulties in accessing basic amenities, increased transportation costs, and risk to their health and safety.
When we are yes, one, I say, yes, weapon upon say, yet the young boy be a diesel, no, why, Anna, why, any, but yes, Rom, home, we are going in my head. Yamawa, na a foot was a kunipa. Usha, stores be brain, a walk one, why, ye. Baby, so why, ya close. Na Ahazuna, a Diane, Yakase, Ghana.
A citizen of Europe. Now, the reason why my joining our demonstration is a hard time governments of the day. When I talk of government, I want to chairman one by a game. Why am I saying that? Me, I'm a businessman. I've locked my store. Because a geographic location here in the municipality here, both Filo and Manya, the area air high and air typhoid. We know typhoid ever. The question is NDC MPP. One event a crop of 4 years. Then from 2014 to date, one month in a one way there were an NDC by 2016. Why? When they left office, the machines vanished.
Away from that, President John Mahama has disclosed that Ghana and China are finalizing a zero-tariff agreement expected to be concluded by the end of this month. This will ensure the goods of Ghanaian origin entering China will not attract import duties. Speaking at a presidential investment forum in Beijing, President Mahama confirmed that both countries have reached an understanding towards the implementation of the agreement.
President John Mahama began the second day of his state visits to China with bilateral discussions with Chinese President Xi Jinping. President Mahama expressed concern over the rise of unilateralism in global affairs, warning that it threatens multilateral cooperation. He urged nations that believe in multilateralism to stand in solidarity with one another. Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Blakwa said President Xi expressed confidence in President Mahama's leadership to protect Chinese investments and businesses in Ghana.
Since assuming the presidency, he is fixing all the problems he inherited. He's fixed the economy. He will give you the details of that. He's fixed education. He's fixed healthcare. He's fixing infrastructure. And only a few days ago, he's also fixed our football. Ghana has qualified for the World Cup.
Later, President Mahama hosted a presidential investment forum that brought together Chinese and Ghanaian business leaders. He revealed that Ghana and China are set to conclude a zero-tariff agreement by the end of this month.
Between 2020 and 2024, China's exports to Ghana rose by nearly 46%. While Ghana's exports to China increased by over 11%. China's decision to grant zero-tariff access to Ghanaian and African products signals the confidence in our partnership. It opens vast new markets for Ghanaian exporters, agro-processors, and manufacturers. And I'm happy to inform you that we reached agreement in principle, and we have targeted the end of October to be able to sign off on the zero tariff principle. I wish to commend the government of China for this act of solidarity. We are all aware that the multilateral rules-based trading system is being upended by unilateral slapping of tariffs on different countries. This is the time for us to solidarize and to come together, and this initiative by China is very timely.
President Mahama also announced plans to establish a new green digital city spanning the Greater Accra, Eastern and Volta regions. He said an interministerial committee will soon be inaugurated to oversee the design and feasibility study.
As part of Ghana's transformation, we plan to establish a new green city that will straddle the three regions of Greater Accra, Volta and Eastern regions. I'll soon inaugurate an interministerial committee to guide the design and feasibility study of this new city. I'll also appoint a transaction advisor to lead the process for the implementation of this all-important project. This will be a green digital city and will display cutting-edge technology in urban design, planning, and innovation. This city is planned to be a 20-year project executed in 4 phases. And my expectation is that the first phase will commence before my tenure of office runs out. I invite our Chinese colleagues to be a part of this all-important project.
Well, that is a report filed by our Presidential Affairs correspondent, Maxwell Agwagwa. And that's how we draw the curtains here on The Pulse. For more news, please log on to myjournline.com. My name is Faustina Safo. Good afternoon.